Welcome to the latest Motley Fool scoreboard. I'm on and talking to Lou. We've got longtime fools, Dan Kaplinger and Lou Whiteman, giving a 1 to 10 rating to a Moneyball rec. It's Amentum, ticker symbol AMTM. Rate the strength of Amentum's business first, including factors like industry and competition. 10 is invincible. A 1 is hopeless. Both of you have 8s, Lou.
Yeah, so this is probably about as boring as you can get for a defense contractor, and sometimes boring is better. Relative new company formed from a 2024 merger. What do? They provide sort of the foundational work behind much of what the Pentagon and the U.S. space agencies want to accomplish. They don't manufacture the planes. They don't make tanks, but they run the Kennedy Space Center. They're the brains behind rocket launch trajectory planning. They do both R&D and disposal for the nuclear arsenal and commercial nuclear. Again, a lot of it's boring. It isn't glamorous. They aren't the ones doing the big platform stuff, but it's hard to think of a company more essential to keeping the U.S. space and defense operations up and running day to day than they are, and that makes for a really intriguing investment.
Yeah, it's easy for investors just to focus on the cool planes, on a spacecraft lifting off, and miss the engineering, the software, just the support systems that make all of that stuff possible. That's where Amentum is focusing. And it's got multiple levels of exposure to really hot areas in areas like artificial intelligence and communications technology. Those are trends that should be at its back well into the future.
For management, a 10 is Warren Buffett. A 1 is Homer Simpson. Dan's at a 7. Lou, you're at an 8.
Yeah, so CEO John Heller has a great resume to my eyes. He was with Jacobs Engineering, one of the parts of this business before 2024. He has a long history with other contractors. He's even a West Point grad. And if you don't think that matters in dealing with the Pentagon, you're wrong. I will say here that part of the magic and part of the risk with this company comes with a lot of private equity ownership coming out of the merger. We'll get to kind of the downside in a second here, but it also means there's a lot of really smart financial people with real industry domain on this board, which is worth an extra point or two. This is not a show board. This is a very, very good board. So that's what bumps me up to an 8.
We're kind of at a critical point at this point. Heller's done really well, putting all these pieces together, doing the M&A thing to make Amentum into what he sees as a vision of what he wants to take forward. Now it's just time for him to deliver. And if he can deliver on its full potential, then things are going to look good. It's early yet, so a little bit cautious to make a conclusion, but I am cautiously optimistic about his chances to bring big success to Amentum.
For financials, a 10 is a fortress. A 1 is yikes. Scores are a little lower here. Dan's at a 6. Lou, you're at a 5.
Yeah, this is a snapshot, a moment in time. I do think the number goes up over time, but, right now it is what it is. Net leverage, 3.2 times EBITDA today. That's a lot. The good news, it was 4.1x at the end of 2024, and they generated $500 million in free cash flow in the last fiscal year. So they are getting towards the goal of 3x net leverage, but they have to get there. Also, I mentioned the private equity ownership. American Securities, kind of one of the founders of this business, still owns 18%. You can count on them to sell it down over time. That's how private equity works. And this is not a balance sheet that is in position to use buybacks to offset that. So it's going to create near-term volatility. There's a lot of pulls on cash here in an ideal world. Financials isn't the reason to buy this stock. It's very much a work in progress, but I do think it gets better over time.
Agree with Lou. It's been a low-margin business historically. There is considerable debt. The cash flow is rising, so that is a positive. And there has been growth. A lot of it's come through M&A, though, so it's going to be interesting to see how the organic growth story plays out. Until I see it, I'm going to keep my score relatively conservative here.
All right, Dan. Let's move on to valuation. How well will Amentum stock do over the next 5 years, and how safe is it? 10's a sure thing. 1's a lottery ticket.
I went 5 to 10% with a safety score of 6. That is market perform for me. I do think it has a good chance to excel and exceed that if it can make its presence felt more strongly in a relatively short period of time. But Heller and the folks have still a lot of work to do to get Amentum fully established and, as we just were talking about, get its financials fully in order.
Yeah, I would have been higher than 5 to 10% just like 2 months ago before the last earnings announcement. I think the earnings announcement kind of woke up the market to actually what's going on here, and the stock is up from there. I think it's a market perform right now for kind of some of the issues working through the balance sheet, the private equity overhang, which is just going to have to play out. Longer term, I really, really like the prospect for safety. I'm at an 8 just because of the value of the work they do. It's hard to see most of their important contracts disrupted. That's just so essential to what the Pentagon does, which for me, that's the definition of safety.
Thanks to both Dan and to Lou. They've given Amentum a mediocre overall score of 6.6 out of 10. I have a feeling Lou in his heart likes it a lot more than that score would indicate, especially if it pays down debt over time. For Toppets, Lou prefers Leidos Holdings, and Dan prefers slightly more visible aerospace component makers like Howmet and GE Aerospace. Look out for a new scoreboard every market day at 7 p.m. Eastern. Next up is Xometry. Till then, Fool on.
I don't know if it's fantastic. I don't know if people... I don't know if you really want me doing this stuff, but we're having fun.